I will discuss here about GraphQL API server. GraphQL is a query language for APIs that allows us ask for exactly what we need. We just have to describe our data, then ask for what we want, and we get predictable results. GraphQL can be used with any database or storage or our existing code and data. To use GraphQL, we have to create a GraphQL service by defining types and fields on those types, then providing functions for each field on each type. GraphQL performs following tasks. Query fetches items. We can fetch all data or data for the given parameters. Mutation create, update and delete items. Subscription we can subscribe for the change in data. When there is change, we will be notified. In this video, I will create a Node.js web application with GraphQL service that will provide APIs. I am using here person data to perform CRUD operation, and I am using Express to create Node.js web application. So let us start. I will perform CRUD operation on mock data. First, look at my mock data. This is the structure. It has ID, name, city, age, is active. For this data, I will define my type. This is the person type. To define a person type, we need to use GraphQL object type. So first, we should know what packages we have to install. Look at our package.json. GraphQL, GraphQL HTTP. These two packages are for GraphQL, and this is Express, using which we create the web application using on Node.js, and course is to handle course. Ruru. Basically, the requirement of Ruru is to create a GraphQL UI using which we can test our query and explore our APIs. We will discuss about it later. So to create our application, we need GraphQL and GraphQL HTTP, and Express is needed because we are using Node.js, and course is to handle course. When we create our client application, there it works. So after all, we have to install npm install express GraphQL HTTP course ruru -save. Just run this command from the root directory of the project. And your root directory of the project must have already package.json file. I have run this command already, and I have got these versions of these packages. Now let us start again about our type. So I have already discussed, this is my mock data, and for this mock data I am creating my custom data type This is person type, and what is there inside? I have fields ID, name, city, age, is active. So to create a person type for the GraphQL, use GraphQL object type. We need to import it from GraphQL. Okay, we have to write code in Node.js like this. ID is integer type, so use GraphQL int. Name string, GraphQL string, city string, age is again integer, so GraphQL int, and this is boolean, is active, so use GraphQL boolean. So all these are GraphQL APIs to define the data structure. So our custom data type is GraphQL object type, using which I have created person type. Export it because we will need it in our code further. So in this way I have created my custom type named as person type. So this was the first step after installing the packages. So we can say the first step is install the packages. Second step is create the type according to our data. Now let's create our GraphQL API. Here I am creating GraphQL API for the CRUD operation. So I have to read data, create, update and delete. So find my service. I have already created the project. So we will go code line by line. Okay. Again, import all the data types. These are the inbuilt data types of the GraphQL. We will need it in our API further. And this is person type which we have created. And as I have already told you that I am using the mock data. So this is my mock data, person data. One more time I will show my mock data. This is my mock data, ID, name, city, age and is active. All these are the fields. And according to these fields I have created my custom type. So let's create our this API. As I have told you that to fetch data we use query, and to create, update and delete we use mutation. So we have to create two type of object. For the query, this is GraphQL object type, create the instance of GraphQL object type, and one for mutation, GraphQL object type again use, and finally use GraphQL schema. Basically we are creating the schema, and here this is our query, this is our mutation, and one more is subscription. Right now I'm not creating the subscription. So assign here the object of GraphQL schema, GraphQL object type. This one GraphQL object type I have created for query, and this one is for mutation. Both will be configured in GraphQL schema. Use query key to define query and use mutation to define mutation. Okay. Now look into the query. We have fields like name, fields. There can be a description too. We can use a description field to describe about it. Now Inside fields, we will create our functions. I am creating here two functions. Get all persons, get person by ID. I want to fetch all person data by this function, and get person by ID will return one person according to the specified ID. So as I have told you, uh, this is for mock data. So what I am doing is I am returning the complete data which I have here. I will return this completely. To create a function, we have to define three things: type, arguments, and resolve. Keep it in mind. Type is used to define what type of data resolve will return. Arguments, the data is specified to the function using which we will filter the data, or we will create data, update data, or delete data according to those arguments. So these three things: type, arguments, and resolve, we will use. Type, the data return type by this function, arguments sent to this function, and resolve, within which we will process our data to return it. So when we want to return all data, so we don't need the arguments. Type is a list type, GraphQL list. Again, we have to import it from GraphQL. This is inbuilt type. This list will be of person type, so use GraphQL list. This will be a type that we will return data. As I have told, this for this function no need of arguments, so I skipped that. Now come to the resolve. I am just simply returning my full mock data, and this will be of a list of person type. Now come to the next method, get person by ID. Here I will have to return a person according to the given specified ID. So here I am not returning a list, only one person. So the type is person type, not a list. The function will accept an argument of ID, and this ID is of GraphQL integer type, and within resolve I will process this data. So what I am doing is I am using that ID and finding the data matching with that ID and then returning it. Return type is person type. So I am returning a person. In this way, get person by ID will accept an argument as an ID and will return a person according to that ID. Here we can use a database or any other resource to fetch data. We can pass here our data to other server using REST API or other things, or we can fetch here data using database, or whatever we can do. Finally, we have to return data according to our type. In this way, I have created my query, and this query has been configured in GraphQL schema using the query key. This is our query key, and this is our object that we have defined. Now come to the mutation. As we have discussed this, mutation is used for creation, update and delete. So here I will create person, update it and delete it. Look here. First function is add function. Second is update person. Third is delete person. As I have already discussed that for every function we have type, arguments and resolve. Type is return type for the resolve. So in add person, I will add the person and then return the same person. Return the added, new added person. So this is the type, person type, arguments, name, city, age, is active. ID I will generate automatically. Come into the resolve. ID, add length plus 1. As I have told you, this is dummy. So in this way, I have pushed data in the array. And finally, returning the latest one. Come to the update. I will return data person type, arguments. I am using ID, city and is active. For the given ID, I will update city and is active fields of that person. Okay, look here. Get person and update the data city and is active, and finally I am returning the updated person. In this way I have updated it. Here I can send data using REST API or other source, or we can update data in database or whatever we want, we can do in the resolve. Same as while creating person 2. Now come to the delete. Type is I am returning the deleted person. Arguments I need ID to delete the person, and within the resolve perform your actual deletion process. You can send data to REST API or we can use a database or whatever. Okay, in this way I have created add person, update person and delete person API and assign it to GraphQL schema using mutation key. In this way our schema is ready, query and mutation. Now come to the Express code. Create the server, web application, create the web application, import all the data required, initialize the app, Express, and use course, do your coding as web application as we create, and URL for GraphQL using create handler that we get from GraphQL HTTP lib use express. Assign your schema, person schema we get from schema index, this one. This is our schema and we have assigned here I am starting the application on 7070 port. Now look into this code. This is for testing purpose. I am generating a graphic QL IDE, and using this ID we can test our query and mutation. And in real means there will be a client. We need to create a client such as Apollo client. We can use the Apollo client to create a client that will access data from this GraphQL API server. So here I am just configuring the Ruru. I will start the root URL that will fetch data from GraphQL. Okay, this was the full code. Person data type, schema for query and mutation. This is your dummy data, and this is web application, Node.js web application. Now let's start our application. Started on 7070 port. Okay, this is the Ruru URL, and we got this data. Let us test our application. First I will test the query. Write query get all person, assign the fields ID, name, city, age, is active. We got the data. If we want fewer fields, we can remove those fields. We will get the fewer fields. Now next API, get person by ID. We need ID, pass parameter like this, key and value format. Suppose for I want person for the ID 2. This one. If you want more fields, add the fields. In this way, we queried the data. Now let's test the mutation. Use the mutation key. First is add person. Let's see what are the parameters in the add person. Name, city, age is active. Okay, I have passed name, city, age, ejective. After adding, I am returning a person type data, means the latest added person. So configure the fields ID, name, city, whatever you need. Okay, this person has been added. We can test it. This is our added data. Okay, now let's test update. Update API needs ID, city and ejective. ID, suppose I want to update for the ID 3. I need city and ejective. So for the ID 3, city and ejective fields will be updated, and after updating I am returning the updated item. So these are the fields which we will get after update. ID 3, the city is PQR and ejective is false. These two fields has been updated. Look here, ejective and city, PQR and ejective. Now let's test delete operation. For delete operation, I need ID and I will return deleted item. Suppose I am deleting ID with ID 3 and deleted item will be returned. ID 3 is deleted. If you try to delete again, it is null because the person has already been deleted. If you delete another person with ID 2, that will be deleted. Let's check it. We have deleted person with ID 2 and 3. ID 2 and 3 is not available here. 1, 4, 5, 6 in this way. So in this way we have tested our mutation using the GraphQL, and this is Ruru. The purpose of using Ruru is just to test our query and mutation using UI. In actually we need a client application that will hit to the GraphQL URL, and from where we will perform our query and mutation. Okay, in this way we learned about creating GraphQL API server using Node.js. Okay, thanks.